I wanted to share with you a very special question that was submitted to me, wanting to know the answer behind the riddle in Matthew chapter 24. In Matthew chapter 24, Jesus says something very startling to his disciples. He says, "Heaven and earth will pass away, but my word will not pass away." Let's take a look at that portion of Scripture before I give an answer of why Jesus said heaven and earth will pass away. In Matthew chapter 24, verse 32, Jesus tells a story to his disciples specifically about what is going to happen in regards to a prophecy he made earlier in the chapter. I want to read just a few verses of that before I give you a really solid answer on why it is that Jesus said that heaven and earth will pass away. "From the fig tree learn its lesson. As soon as its branches become tender and puts out its leaves, you know that summer is near. So also when you see all these things, you know that he is near, at the very gates. Truly I say to you, this generation will not pass away until all these things take place. Heaven and earth will pass away, but my words will not pass away." What is he talking about here specifically? Well, I'd encourage you to go, first of all, read the entire chapter of Matthew 24. It will give you insight into something absolutely terrifying that Jesus revealed to his followers. They were in the midst of the temple, and they were in the midst of Jerusalem worshiping and asking Jesus, "How great is this temple? Have you seen this? Have you seen that?" And Jesus says, "You see these stones, not one will be set upon another." He was talking about a day in which Jerusalem would be ransacked. It would be completely destroyed, and not a single stone within the temple would be left on another. The scary part about it is he told his apostles that this generation will not pass away before they see the things that I speak of. This was fulfilled by a very dark man named Titus, and you might have the ability to go online and read about this particular ruler and the things that he did, but I will tell you that he completely destroyed all of Jerusalem. See, Jerusalem was destroyed because of their rejection of God's Son and their ill treatment and murder of him upon the cross. They even told the dictator during that time, who was responsible for Jesus' sentencing, they said, "Let his blood be upon us and our children." They were asking to be responsible for the slaying of the Son of God. Now, we are all responsible for that in that we have all sinned. But there was a judgment to fall upon Jerusalem for the rejection of Jesus, and Titus was a representation of that judgment to come. Now, there is in the Bible another very serious verse that discusses the fact that you and I are appointed a day to die. Every man who comes into this earth is promised one day to die, and after that, the judgment. There is a greater judgment than that which Israel went through at the moment in which Titus ransacked the place. That is the end of all things. That is the judgment in which the heavens and the earth that Jesus is speaking about here will in fact pass away. Revelation chapter 20 tells us that Jesus will be seated upon a white throne, and that the books of every single deed that has ever been recorded that you and I have done shall be poured out and shall be opened for all to see. And we will be judged on what is contained in the book, and yet there is another book, the book of life, and those who are not found in that book of life are thrown into the eternal judgment and wrath of God, Gehenna, the fiery place that many of us have come to call hell. Now, when we see that Jesus sits upon his white throne, heaven and earth flee. They cannot stand in the presence of Jesus. And there is a new creation that will happen if you've received Jesus into your heart that will give you a hope, knowing that even when heaven and earth do pass away, there will be a new heaven and a new earth, a new eternity, a new life that will be more real than the life we live now. It will be a life without suffering. It will be a life without pain. It will be a life without sin. And in that life is the hope of what we have if we place our faith in Jesus Christ. But the heavens and the earth that we now see, the skies and the stars and the sun, the system of stars and galaxies, all that we have around us is passing away because sin has corrupted them. But nevertheless, God will recreate it. But in his final judgment, the heavens and the earth will pass away.